Otto Adolf Eichmann, March 19, 1906, June 1, 1962, was a German-Austrian SS-Obersturmbannführer known as one of the key organizers of the Holocaust, particularly for his proposal to Adolf Hitler regarding the final solution to the Jewish question between 1927 and 1933. Eichmann served as the regional representative for the vacuum oil company AG in Upper Austria and Salzburg. During this time, he joined Jungfront-Kampfgruppe, the youth branch of Hermann Hiltl's right-wing veterans organization, and started reading publications of the Nazi Party. The Nazi Party's platform included ending the Weimar Republic, rejecting the Treaty of Versailles, promoting anti-Semitism and anti-Bolshevism, advocating for a strong central government, securing more living space for Germanic peoples, racial purity, and actively suppressing Jews. Ernst Kaltenbrunner, a German-Austrian who would later become a significant figure in the Third Reich and play a crucial role in the solution of the Jewish question, joined the Austrian Nazi Party on April 1, 1932, marking the beginning of his political career. From 1933, he underwent military training in the Austrian Legion for 14 months. In September 1934, with the establishment of Heinrich Himmler's security service SD, he found an opportunity to make a name for himself. In 1935, Kaltenbrunner began closely dealing with the Jewish question. Following the annexation of Austria to Germany, he managed the process of granting exit permits to Jews from Vienna and their transfer to concentration camps in Germany. During this period, he rose through the ranks of the SD, overseeing the transfer of 150,000 Austrian Jews to concentration camps within 18 months, with the German army entering Poland in 1939. Eichmann transferred to the Gestapo and took charge of Section 4B4, a unit dealing with the Jewish question, the final solution. Project, a code name for a plan aiming to mass exterminate the Jewish population, was under this unit. In 1941, he personally oversaw the reorganization of concentration camps, the establishment of new camps, and the development of gas and train systems. After the Wannsee Conference on January 20, 1942, Adolf Eichmann began to be referred to as the Jewish specialist. Eichmann became the chief architect of the final solution, recognized as an expert who had been closely involved with the Jewish question for years. Following Himmler's order to intensify efforts, he is estimated to have contributed to the deaths of approximately 2 million Jews, using organizations such as the Mobilization Death Units. At the end of the war, Eichmann was captured by U.S. forces and spent time in several camps, using false documents identifying himself as Otto Eichmann when his true identity was discovered. He fled from his job in the German town of Cham under the new identity of Otto Henninger. He obtained new documents and frequently changed locations, eventually settling in Lüneburg Heath. Initially working in the forestry industry, he later leased a small plot of land in Alten-Salzgitter where he lived until 1950. During this period, Auschwitz's former commander Rudolf Hess and others presented compelling evidence against Eichmann. At the Nuremberg trials, which began in 1946, in 1948, he obtained permission to go to Argentina and, through an organization led by Austrian clergyman Bishop Alois Hudel, establish a new life under the false identity of Ricardo Clement. These documents included a humanitarian passport from the International Red Cross Committee and the remaining entry permits, allowing immigration to Argentina in 1950. After arriving in Argentina, Eichmann worked for a state contractor in the Jujuy province. In 1952, he called his family, and they moved to Buenos Aires after working in low-paying jobs. He rose to the position of department head at Mercedes-Benz. The family built a house on 14 Garibaldi Street and moved there in 1960 from the late 1950s. Eichmann extensively interviewed with Nazi journalist Willem Sassen over for months to produce a comprehensive life story. Eichmann confessed to knowing that millions of Jews and other people had been killed, and described the final solution as the Führer's order. Holocaust survivors, including Nazi hunters like Simon Wiesenthal, dedicated themselves to finding individuals such as Eichmann and other Nazis who had managed to survive. Wiesenthal learned of Eichmann's presence in Buenos Aires from a letter he received in 1953 and conveyed this information to the Israeli consulate in Vienna in 1954. After Eichmann's father passed away in 1960, Wiesenthal attempted to identify Eichmann by having photographs taken of family members through private detectives. He forwarded this information to Mossad agents, and on February 18th, it was said that Eichmann's brother Otto bore a strong resemblance to Lothar Hermann. An effective figure in exposing Eichmann's identity was a Jewish German who had migrated to Argentina in 1938. When Hermann's daughter Sylvia began dating a man named Klaus Eichmann, who praised Nazi adventures, Hermann reported the situation to Hessen's state prosecutor Fritz Bauer. Bauer provided information to Mossad director Isser Harel, initiating an investigation by Mossad agents to confirm Eichmann's identity. Zvia Haroni, one of the Mossad agents sent to Israel to confirm Eichmann's identity, verified it after a few weeks of investigation in Buenos Aires subsequently. Considering Argentina's history of rejecting extradition requests for Nazi criminals, Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion decided to bring Eichmann to Israel. In May 1960, Harel came to Argentina to oversee the capture. Operation Rafi Eitan, a Mossad agent, was selected as the leader of the 8-member team, most of whom were from Shin Bet. He was captured by Simon Wiesenthal and his men, taken to a safe house outside Buenos Aires, and held for 9 days until his identity was confirmed in Mossad's safe house. They arrived in Israel on May 22nd, and Ben-Gurion announced the capture of Adolf Eichmann to the Knesset the next afternoon. Eichmann was brought to Israel, where he was tried and convicted for his crimes during the Holocaust. After being brought to Israel, Adolf Eichmann was held at a fortified police station in Yager for 9 months. Security measures were extremely tight due to Eichmann's suicide risk. His cell was 3 by 4 meters in size, monitored by a guard at all hours, and checked through a peephole behind the cell door. Another guard was stationed behind an exit door, and lights were on in the cell day and night. A police doctor examined Eichmann twice a day. Eichmann's trial at the Jerusalem District Court began on April 11, 1961. The charges were based on the 1950 Nazi and Nazi collaborators punishment law, including crimes against humanity, war crimes, crimes against the Jewish people, and membership in a criminal organization. Prosecutor Gideon Hausner and his team presented over 100 witnesses and thousands of documents as evidence during the trial. Testimonies of survivors from concentration camps played a crucial role in conveying the horror of. The trial lasted for 56 days, constituting a comprehensive prosecution case with hundreds of documents and 112 witnesses, most of whom were Holocaust survivors. Prosecutor Hausner aimed not only to prove Eichmann's guilt but also to create a broad record of the entire Holocaust. In his opening statement, Hausner emphasized that it was not just the Nazi regime being judged, but also the history of anti-Semitism throughout time. The defense then undertook an extensive direct examination of Eichmann. Observers such as Moshe Perlman and Hannah Arendt noted Eichmann's ordinary appearance throughout the trial. Eichmann insisted that he had no choice but to obey orders due to his oath of loyalty to Hitler. This defense resembled the superior orders defense used by some defendants in the 1945 to 1946 Nuremberg trials. Eichmann claimed that decisions were made not by himself but by Müller, Reinhard Heydrich, Heinrich Himmler, and ultimately Hitler. Eichmann's defense attorney, Servatius, argued that the decisions of the Nazi government were state decisions and, therefore, not subject to regular judicial proceedings. Concerning the Wannsee Conference, Eichmann stated that he eventually felt satisfaction and relief because a definite destruction order had been given by his superiors. He felt absolved of any guilt during the cross-examination. Prosecutor Hausner sought to make Eichmann admit personal guilt, but such an admission did not come. Eichmann confessed to not liking Jews and viewing them as enemies, but maintained that he never justified their extermination. When Hausner presented evidence that Eichmann had said in 1945, "I will jump into my grave laughing because the feeling that I have 5 million people on my conscience is for me a source of extraordinary satisfaction," Eichmann claimed he met the enemies of the Reich, such as the Soviets, on the final day of the trial. Eichmann admitted guilt for organizing deportations, but claimed not to feel guilty about the consequences. The judges delivered the verdict on December 12, 1961. Eichmann was convicted on 15 different charges, including crimes against humanity, war crimes, crimes against the Jewish people, and membership in a criminal organization. He was found guilty of the appalling conditions in deportation trains and the responsibility for filling these trains with Jews, in addition to crimes against Jews. He was convicted for crimes against Jews. He was convicted for crimes against Poles, Slovenes, and Roma. Eichmann was also found guilty of membership in 3 organizations convicted at the Nuremberg trials, Gestapo, SD, and SS. When evaluating the sentence, the judges concluded that Eichmann not only followed orders, but also genuinely believed in the Nazi cause and was a key figure in the genocide. On December 15, 1961, Eichmann was sentenced to death for his crimes. Eichmann's defense team appealed the decision to the Israeli Supreme Court. The appeal was heard by a panel of 5 judges, including Chief Justice Yitzhak Olshan and Justices Shimon Agranit, Moshe Zilberg, Yoel Zussman, and Alfred Witt-Kahn. The defense mainly based its arguments on the legality of Israel's jurisdiction and the legality of the laws under which Eichmann was charged. The appeal hearings took place between March 22 and March 29, 1962. On May 29, the Supreme Court rejected the appeal, confirming the district court's decision in all respects. Eichmann immediately petitioned President Yitzhak Ben-Zvi for clemency. The contents of his letter and other trial documents were disclosed to the public on January 27, 2016. Additionally, Eichmann, through Servatius, requested a stay of execution pending the outcome of appeals planned for extradition to West Germany. Eichmann's wife and brothers also wrote letters to Ben-Zvi requesting clemency. Ben-Gurion held a special cabinet meeting to address the issue. The cabinet decided to advise President Ben-Zvi not to grant clemency, and Ben-Zvi rejected Eichmann's petition for clemency. Eichmann was informed that his plea for presidential clemency had been rejected a few hours later. Eichmann was hanged in a prison in Ramla within hours. The execution, initially planned for midnight on May 31st, was slightly delayed, and it took place shortly after midnight on June 1, 1962. According to Holocaust historian and London University professor of history David Cesarani, Eichmann's last words were reported as follows: "Long live Germany, long live Argentina, long live Austria. These are the 3 countries with which I have been most connected. I greet my wife, my family, and my friends. I'm ready. We'll meet again soon. As is the fate of all men, I die believing in God." A few hours later, Eichmann's body was cremated in a specially designed furnace, and his ashes were scattered into the Mediterranean Sea by an Israeli Navy patrol boat outside Israel's territorial waters in the early hours of the morning. Shalom Nagar was the executioner after being tried and sentenced by the Israeli judiciary. Adolf Eichmann remains the only person executed in Israel.